Alright guys, today I'm back with another video, and today I will go over each backstory in Blue Lock. Now I did one of these like a year ago, and since then we have gotten a few more, but also some additional backstory to some characters. Also, these are the videos which I really enjoy making where I can just explain stuff. So please, if you have similar video ideas, then please leave them down below. Anyway, with that out of the way, be sure to subscribe, and then let's head into the video. Chigiri Hyoma. We get into Chigiri's backstory all the way back in the first election, where Team Z is up against Team W. We start the backstory with both of the Wanama brothers being in charge of new football players. They explain that Rakusut High, which is their school, is a regular at nationals for high school soccer, and that they are the double aces, the Wanima twins, and telling them that they better show them some respect. However, there was one of the new football players who had enough of their ego boosting, and that was Chigiri. He says that he just won the nationals, and that he came to Rako Tech to help his career, and asks if they can skip this pointless hierarchy. This makes the Wanima twins extremely mad. They ask him if he wants to go at it. Chigiri just coldly states his name and asks them to shut up before he beats them. And beat them he did, as he just blitzed through them with little to no effort, which even takes the Wanima twins off guard. After that, we fast forward a bit to the trainer, explaining that they will put Chigiri up on top for the next match and make use of his incredible speed, even saying that with this strategy, they have a shot at winning nationals. This doesn't sit well with the Wanima brothers, who are extremely mad at Chigiri for becoming the ace of their team. However, Chigiri doesn't care and says that all it comes down to is if you have talent or not, which upsets them even more. Chigiri thinks that there's nothing equal about talent and that he is one of the chosen ones. Ever since he first zoomed past someone when he was 6, soccer became his everything. In this world, there are those who have talent and those who don't. After that, we get into a match between Rakusut Tech and Arikiban, where Chigiri scores the first goal with ease. With that, he got featured in a bunch of articles, and journalists all over the world wanted to talk to him. After that, we get into another game, where Chigiri is zooming on the field, and he explains that the feeling he gets from breaking through the players with his legs is amazing, and that he will become the world's greatest striker someday, as that was what he truly believed about his future. But then suddenly, the day came when Chigiri was speeding through the field and his leg suddenly snapped and he fell down on the field. He went to the doctor and he explained that the ACL in Chigiri's right knee was torn and that he would be more or less okay this time, saying that it appears the muscles in Chigiri's legs are attached in a particular way which allows him to make his very high-speed sprints. However, if it ends up being torn again, then they believe that it will be very difficult for Chigiri to continue life as an athlete, which came as a real shock to him. After that, he could only watch from the sidelines, and the Wanima brothers often came to make fun of him, asking him that since his talent was ruined and he couldn't run anymore, does he still have any value left? They used Chigiri's own words against him, saying that it's just a matter of if you have talent or not. After that, Chigiri worked hard to get back on his feet, and after a while was finally allowed back into the team. However, something was wrong. He wasn't able to use his incredible speed anymore. The Wanima brothers asked him if he was scared of breaking it again if he ran at full speed. However, Chigiri explained that he wasn't scared of running on his right leg again, as up until now he always believed that he would be the best in the world and that he was scared of losing that thought of himself. After that, we see Chigiri looking crushed as he has chains all around his leg. However, we all know what happened in the match against Team Z and Team W in the end, as those chains didn't stay there for long. Ryo, Mikage and Nagi Seishiro. Ryo has a life filled with boredom. His father is always telling him that he was born to surpass him, and for Ryo to get used to the idea that everything in this world is his. His mother wasn't any better, as she also said that Ryo could get anything he ever wished for, which would be great if Ryo didn't find this boring. He had always gotten everything he wished for, but couldn't find anything that he actually wanted. When I say that Ryo had everything, I mean everything. He had physical beauty, intelligence, and athletic ability. Ryo was just blessed with everything, but even in the midst of that lifestyle, he couldn't find what he wanted. He thought that anything he could get easily was boring, and that he wanted a treasure that only he could have. But soon after he started having such thoughts, in the summer of his first year of high school, he finally found it. The glorious golden cup that inspires fanaticism all across the world. For the first time in his life, Ryo had found something he actually wanted. But when he told his father about it, he shut Ryo down in an instant. Ryo was confused and said that his father told him he could get anything he wanted. His father explained that Ryo was his successor. On top of that, only a chosen few can become pro soccer players, and there's no way that Ryo can make it if he's starting just now. His mother came from behind and said that his father was right and that he would go to a top-tier college and become a top-tier businessman. They even tried to manipulate him by saying that all of this was for his own sake. But Ryo had an angry expression as he said that everything his mother and father had given him wasn't what he actually wanted. Even then, Ryo quietly stifled the first urge to kill that he'd ever felt, but it just made his feelings burn even hotter. After that, Ryo was sitting in class thinking that he would make his school win the nationals, which would make his parents shut up. However, there was one problem. This school focused on college prep, and because of that, their soccer team was pretty weak. Ryo was lost and didn't know what to do, but he knew that he didn't want to give up. Suddenly, when he was walking down the stairs, he accidentally bumped into someone's shoulder, which made the person, who we know as Nagi, drop his phone. Nagi's phone was flying in the air and was about to touch the ground and get destroyed when he suddenly jumped and somehow managed to trap his phone with his foot. Ryo was amazed by his trapping ability, but Nagi just went back to his game. Ryo knew that this was his chance and asked if he was on the soccer team, but Nagi didn't respond and just said that he died. So Ryo asked who he was and if he wanted to play soccer with him. Nagi instantly saw that Ryo was a rich kid and asked him for money. Ryo was confused, but Nagi said that he didn't play soccer and that he'd never even played sports before, saying that he just wanted to live his life as lazily as possible and also ask for money again. Ryo couldn't believe it and was amazed that Nagi had never played soccer before, saying that he definitely had a talent for it. He told him to play soccer together and that if Nagi tried hard enough, he could make it pro. However, Nagi just said that if he has to try hard, then it sounds like a pain. He turned his head and said that he hates annoying stuff and that he doesn't want to work. But Ryo still knew that Nagi had talent, even if he didn't realize it. He thought back to his dad, saying that only a chosen few can become pro soccer players. Ryo knew that he was looking at one right here, a chosen one, and said that he wanted him. He gave in to Nagi's way in order for them to play soccer, and just like that, after meeting Nagi, Ryo's life wasn't filled with boredom anymore. Kuon. We start his backstory by going into his younger years, where he was desperately fighting to get 11 people into the Kitsunezaka High School Soccer Club. With that, he was set on taking his team to nationals. All of the players are ecstatic, but someone asks if aiming for nationals isn't a bit unrealistic. Kuon says that if they are gonna do this, then they have to aim to be pros and one day represent Japan. They started to train more intensely and made some good progress. However, after a while, some players started to slack off the morning practice and they started to play badly. After a loss they had, Kuon asked if they didn't feel ashamed and if they didn't want to win. His teammates tell him to chill out and say that he is aiming too high. Kuon is shocked by this and wonders what happened to their plan of going to nationals and then representing Japan. They explain that they just said that to hype him up and that they are nobodies and would never be able to win nationals, ending it by telling Kuon that he is too intense and that playing soccer with him isn't any fun at all. Kuon starts to cry and says that in the end, the only one who really wanted to play for keeps was himself. With that, he decided that he didn't need teammates anymore. Then one lucky day, his letter from Blue Lock came. He thought that there was someone who acknowledged his talents, saying that this was where he needed to fight and that he wasn't the mediocre type who let their dreams stay dreams. With a determined look, he says that no matter if he ends up on his own, and no matter what methods he has to use, he will from this moment play and do everything to win. Naruhaya. Now we get into his backstory during his match against Isagi in the second selection where he has just lost. Then we get to see his life before Blue Lock. We get into Naruhaya's home where they are just getting ready to eat. Some are fighting, and someone is annoyed that it's pot stickers for dinner again. But Naruhaya tells them to quit fighting and complaining, saying that they should be thankful for these leftover pot stickers that their big sis got from her part-time job. One of the siblings says that he will make a fortune in crypto and escape this life. Another one says that she hates being poor, but when Naruhaya gets right up to her face and smiles big, she is confused and asks what his deal is. Naruhaya says that you gotta smile and laugh through the hard times, which makes all of them smile and look happy. After dinner, we see them praying to their parents. They say that it's now been 2 years since the accident, but that they are doing fine. Naruhaya looks over at his big sis and thinks that it's going to be okay, because once he grows up to become a pro soccer player, he will earn tons of money and let them all live comfortably. Then he will truly be able to protect everyone. That was when the letter from Blue Lock came. As they were saying goodbye, His big sis said that good luck charms were way too pricey and that she couldn't afford anything more than these caramels, but she asks him to take them with him. On the back, it's written good luck and that he can do it. She hands them to Naruhaya as she tells him to give it his best, and like that, he says that he is on his way. However, unfortunately, after the second selection match, where his dreams ended, Barou was always the main actor on the field. In fact, he had so much talent that he could talk how he wanted, which we see here as he told his teammates to move for the sake of his goal, as when it came to soccer, he thought everyone besides himself was a supporting role. The other kids just praised him, and every time Barou heard that kind of praise from those around him, he thought, these guys are so happy, even though they're supporting roles, and Barou then just say that he is the king. At this stage, Barou gave up on trying to understand others, and he became obsessed with just pursuing his own soccer, which worked as Barou became stronger, and at some point he noticed that the reason why he enjoyed soccer to this extent was not just to taste the feeling of being the king, and of course not because he loved to kick the ball either, as Barou simply wanted people like himself and people who also bet their lives on soccer. He wanted to use his goals to drag these people off the seat of the main actor, and he played soccer to feel that pleasure. This feeling is something that only the absolutely strong can obtain, the ultimate exclusive joy. Bachira. So we actually jump straight into Bachira's backstory to when he was a child. It says that Meguru Bachira adores soccer. Whether awake or asleep, from morning to night he's always kicking a ball around. Of course, whenever he plays with anyone else, the best one is always Bachira. He especially loves dribbling, and sometimes he feels as if he's become one with the ball. At times like that, he's always absurdly fast and strong, thinking that there's nothing more fun in the entire world as he dribbles between the other players, which was what Bachira believed in. After Bachira had scored and asked to play one more game, they were suddenly not interested anymore, saying that Bachira was too good and that they would rather go home and play video games. Bachira can't understand what they are saying and explains that they just need to be one with the ball and then they can make awesome plays, even saying that there's nothing more fun than soccer. He then smiles and awaits their answer, but they just say that he's weird. Not only that, but they also say his eyes aren't right and that they are too big. Then one of them tells the others to go, and that all Bachira thinks about is football, even going as far as calling him weird. This makes Bachira lose it, as he jumps up and kicks him in the face. He's on top of him, screaming that he isn't weird at all. However, the guy on the floor is still going at it and calls him a total creep this time. Bachira is just getting more and more frustrated at this point, and he begins screaming at him. Then the others start to kick off Bachira, telling him to shut up. After that, Bachira goes home and his mom puts a bandage on him, while assuring him that he isn't weird at all. Bachira is happy that someone knows how he feels, and he says that they are wrong. However, his mom says that she doesn't think they are wrong, and while fighting is bad, the things Bachira is able to feel are something the others can't. Bachira doesn't know what to do and explains that all he wanted was for them to play soccer with him, and that it's way more fun than video games. His mom gets up and laughs, saying that Bachira really is admirable, and telling him that it's a wonderful thing to have something to believe in, and that he should just live his life believing in it. She explains that when people become adults, they want to believe, but they forget how, and if you pretend you can't hear your own voice, then you will eventually lose hearing of it. She continues, explaining that what Bachira believes in is a very precious, fleeting thing. It's the voice of the monster in your heart, which is something that she has always put her trust in. We then learn that the pictures Bachira's mother paints are his favorite things in the world next to soccer, of course. However, Bachira started to wonder about the monster in his mom, which she had painted. This made him wonder what kind of monster is inside him, but he knew that he just had to keep playing soccer and trust in the things only he is able to feel. As he was playing by himself one day, suddenly the monster came out and gave Bachira someone to play with, which truly put a smile on his face, while the players he played with before watched from afar and called him weird. After that, we fast forward a bit to when Bachira had gotten a bit older and joined a football team. The coach told them that what's important is the spirit of the team and that everyone is fighting together for the same victory. However, Bachira's attention span wasn't really there as he looked up at the sky. There were some decent soccer players around him, but even still, Bachira was the best among them. In a match, Bachira's teammate was looking for a pass. However, as Bachira looks over, he says that he has it wrong, and that the place where he is at isn't fun at all, telling him that he has to be 3 steps beyond there. So he passed it, but while passing, he thought that if the monster was there, then he would do a super special play. This resulted in Bachira passing the ball too high and far, so that his real teammate couldn't reach it, and his coach screamed at him to pass the ball to their feet. Bachira listened, but then right away thought about something else, as he said that the sun wasn't red, but actually white. The fun Bachira had felt, there must exist other people who also feel it, he thought. As he's watching TV, he sees Noah scoring an amazing goal, and thinks that since these strikers inside the screen all could play just like the monster, one day he wants to play soccer like that too. Someday, he wants to meet someone who can understand the fun from the bottom of their heart. As he says that, we get back into another game, where his teammate once again is looking for the pass. He glances at him and calls him too slow, saying that if you play like that, then you can't beat the monster. At some point, everyone pretended to not see it, and they stopped hearing the monster's voice. The defenders eventually catch up to Bachira and take him down. His teammates and coach are furious at him and tell him to stop playing so self-centered, but Bachira doesn't care about that, as he looks up and sees the monster holding his hand out towards Bachira for him to grab. While everyone else stopped believing in the fun of soccer, Bachira kept believing in it. After that, we saw him practice alone as he admitted that the truth is that sometimes he gets scared. He thinks back to his coach telling him that if he stopped doing those strange passes and dribbles, then he would be good enough to aim to become a pro. He also thinks back to his teammates screaming at him, and he thinks to himself, what if things stay like this and nobody ever understands him? Just what if he really is weird, and what if he has to play soccer alone forever? He puts his head against his arms, and when he thinks like this, he feels so lonely that he could literally die. After a while, Bachira eventually goes home. His mother welcomes him back and wonders what has happened as he looks sad. However, he says that he's fine and just tired. Before he goes to bed, his mom tells him that he's gotten a letter from the Japanese Soccer Association or something, which shocks Bachira. They open it together, and it's his Blue Lock letter. His mother, as sweet as she is, congratulates Bachira and tells him that he should go. Bachira agrees and decides to go to Blue Lock. Suddenly, we get into a dream where we see Bachira saying that he wants a real friend to play soccer with him. His mom understands him and says that it truly would be nice if that happened. Bachira agrees, saying that he will believe in it, and just then, more and more players start to pop up around him. We see Noah, Ronaldo, Messi, and even Zico, whom Bachira tries to get a pass from, which is just so adorable. But when we got into Blue Lock, right after arriving, it was time for the game of tag, which would determine who had to leave Blue Lock already. Bachira is slowly waking up, but says that he is so sleepy and that it's because he got too excited yesterday and didn't sleep. Suddenly, the most worthless human on this planet, otherwise known as Igarashi, tried to get Bachira when he was sleepy, but because of that, Bachira straight up kicked him in the face. He looked at everyone there and said that there are people playing all kinds of soccer, and among these people, there must be someone who's the same as the monster. Suddenly, as Isagi had been the one who got tagged and Igarashi crushed his ankle, he was about to go for him. Even Kira told him to go for it. Bachira was looking at it and admitted that there was one thing he was afraid of, and that was that there might not be anyone else who was on par with his monster. But suddenly, as Isagi was about to shoot at Igarashi, he said that this wasn't right and that he came here to change his life and become the best player in the world. Bachira came forward to him and laughed, but told him that he was right and that if he's gonna defeat anyone here, he must be the strongest guy. So Bachira took the ball from Isagi, which made him tag, and he was ready to gamble it all, because if there wasn't anyone who could understand him here, then he would be so lonely that he could die, and he would have to go back to those sad days, which would be the worst case scenario. He ran with the ball and thought that he didn't want to be alone anymore. So even if he's a little scared, and even if he is sad and fails, he will never lose his belief. And just like that, he looks at the monster and passes it, hoping that someone will emerge at that spot. Someone does, and it's of course Isagi Yoichi, who's right where the monster is. Bachira's eyes start to light up as he sees Isagi shooting Kira right in the face, and in that moment, it feels like Bachira was being told to pass to Isagi and that Isagi is the real monster, which is why Bachira fully believes in Isagi. Rin and Sae Itoshi. We see Rin playing with some toys and breaking a hero figure with a dinosaur one. Rin is then straight up saying nonsense and is starting to drool, but that's when Sae comes and wipes it off for him and puts his hand on Rin's head as he asks Rin if he is having that much fun. Rin then also wipes his nose and says, "Yeah." Sae then spots the broken toy, telling Rin that he broke it. He explains that unlike them, toys don't bleed, but unlike them, toys don't get fixed if they break. Rin says that he knows and apologizes and asks Sae if he thinks that their mom and dad will be angry and if they will worry. Sae thinks for a bit before he just asks Rin if he wants to get some ice cream, and Rin says that he wants to. After that, they do just that as they go and get some ice cream. Sae asks if Rin won, but Rin says that he didn't, and Sae then tells him not to worry, as until the day he dies, Sae will always be by his side. The two of them then get home, and Rin's mother right away asks Rin if he broke his toy again, asking him how often they have told him to take better care of his toys. Rin is stumbling on his words and not knowing what to say. He tries to apologize, but that's when Sae interrupts and says that he broke it and apologizes. This shocks both of their parents, and their mom goes to Sae and asks if he really broke Rin's toy, and he says that he did. Their father then tells Sae that they need to talk about it and to follow him. Sae agrees, but as he leaves, he looks back to Rin and they stick out their tongues to each other before he goes. After that, we get into some sort of fictional TV program where we see a huge monster roaming around the city and destroying everything. All of the citizens start to freak out, but that's when Evomeleon suddenly gets back on his feet. After that, he pulls out some insane move as he starts to drain the life force out of them and uses it for his power, and everyone ends up giving him their all so that he could use it for his final state. And when he was ready, he used his final attack called Life is Beautiful and shot a big beam of light towards the monster. After that, we get to Rin's school, where we see some of his classmates doing that exact step in a flash. Even the teacher admits that she was tearing up when she watched the series yesterday. Rin just looks at them before his friends, who he is playing Jenga with, tell him that it's his turn. However, as he looks at the Jenga tower, he decides to just fall on top of it, ruining the entire game. We then see some birds eating on the ground, but that's when Rin comes out of nowhere and jumps towards them. They end up escaping, and Rin ends up with a nosebleed. We then get to Rin at home, who is watching the TV, where he sees two animals, and one of them is starting to kill the other, and he looks fascinated by it. We then see his parents in the kitchen, and their mom says that she got a call from school again, and that Rin is still causing trouble for other kids, telling their father that even Sae has been acting strange lately, as he is always covering for his brother, saying that as a mother she can't help but worry if she did something wrong. Their father tells her that it will be okay, and that it's just a phase that they are in right now and it will go away. We then see Rin standing at the back listening into all of this. After that, Sae comes downstairs and he asks Rin if he wants ice cream, but he says that he doesn't want any. Rin then lies on his bed and asks if he is weird. Sae says duh, and that he is Sae's little brother after all. Rin then asks Sae if he is in the way, but Sae just asks him what he is talking about. He tells Rin that people call him weird or annoying all the time, and asks if Rin is unhappy that people find him weird. Rin is surprised by that, but says that if he is just like Sae, then he's okay with it. After that, the same TV program gets on the TV, and Rin goes to watch it. Sae, who's now playing with a football, asks Rin if he is still watching that, and says that all of his friends are super into it. However, Sae says that all of the stuff about saving the world is so childish. Rin, however, tells Sae that he is wrong and that he is more interested in the final boss monster, telling Sae to look at it, and that to defeat an enemy more powerful than he is, he's putting his entire life on the line. Even if he gets pierced in the chest, even if he blows himself up, everything he does is to destroy that superhero. Rin says that to him, it's super cool and even cooler than the superhero. Sae just looks at him, but Rin continues and says that it's why even if he ends up battered, bruised, and injured one day, he also wants to fight a super strong guy and destroy him, and then of course kill him. Sae looks at him in shock, but Rin then starts to drool and thinks that his ego is about destroying others while putting his life on the line. In the break of the U20 match, Rin is sitting alone on a bench and thinking back to the past. We see little Rin watching Sae completely annihilating the field. No one can guard him as he runs between the players and even scores. This makes Rin so excited that he starts squeezing the net and says that Sae is always super cool. After the game, some journalists approach Sae and ask him what kind of player he wants to be in the future, but he just tells them to shut up and that he'll do what he wants before straight up leaving them. He tells Rin that they are leaving. Rin gets close and grabs hold of Sae's shirt as they leave. On their way home, Sae asks Rin if he wants ice cream, which Rin can't really say no to. While eating ice cream, Rin is lucky enough to win a prize. When he asks Sae if he has won anything, we see Sae frustrated about losing, so he starts eating up the stick. After that, he says that someone who'd waste their luck on stupid stuff like that couldn't become the best in the world, but we both know he wouldn't be saying this if he had won. Anyway, Sae then changes the topic and says that he will be the best striker in the world and that anything else is worthless. Rin is amazed at how strong Sae's determination is and says that he really hates to lose. After that, we get into another game where Rin is once again spectating. Sae is up against a lot of players as all of them are man-marking him. But Rin isn't worried as he knows that Sae never loses. While watching Sae, he wonders if he can become like that one day, wondering if he can become strong and cool, just like Sae. Just then, Sae shoots the ball into the goal zone. However, his teammates aren't able to reach the ball. Suddenly, someone else comes into the picture. It's Rin, who has gotten onto the pitch out of nowhere and has an amazing aura around him. As he kicks the ball, he wonders if he can also become the best striker in the world. As Sae watches this, he is a bit taken aback, but his eyes start to light up. Rin's shot actually goes into the goal. Sae's teammates are mad at him and say that he can't just come in here, but suddenly Sae comes and tells them to get out of the way. Sae has an annoyed and angry face, which makes Rin apologize right away. However, Sae puts his hand on Rin's head and tells him that he's incredible, and asks Rin to please play football with him while scratching his head. This shocks Rin as he thought that Sae would be angry, but Rin looks up and sees Sae telling him that if it's him, he can become the best one after Sae. Rin has only one thing on his mind at that moment, that Sae is the #1 nicest person in the world, which is just so adorable. Anyway, both of them grow a little and start to really play together. In this specific match, Sae passes to Rin, and Rin easily scores. The team they are up against is amazed at the Itoshi striker duo and says that they are straight out monsters. However, that's not what the Itoshi brothers are saying, as Sae calls Rin's shot shoddy. Rin is surprised, but says that he will be more careful next time. Sae then asks Rin if he can pick up the speed a bit, and Rin says that he will try. As they are mid-game, Rin says that it's fun to play football with Sae, and that when they are playing together, Rin feels invincible. They are playing off each other beautifully, and Rin is sure that if they continue like this, they will surely become the best in the world. As he says that, Rin scores another goal, but this time it's not a shoddy one. After the match is done, they go out to the sea and eat some ice cream. Rin wins the prize for his ice cream, but Sae just calls it a waste of Rin's luck. However, Rin quickly fixes that by throwing the ice cream into the ocean, saying that it's the destruction of evidence. After that, Sae asks Rin what he thinks about when he plays football. Rin is caught off guard and says not much, just thinking about scoring, and tells Sae that if Rin dashes to where it looks critical, he will pass to him. Sae asks Rin what's critical, and Rin thinks for a bit before saying that it's where the enemies would panic and fall apart. Sae listens closely and tells Rin that he relies on his instincts too much. However, Rin says that it all works out because Sae is there to pass to him and that anyone else feels kinda lacking to Rin. Sae then asks Rin what he would do if he wasn't here. Rin isn't too sure and says that he would probably look for someone else to replace Sae. However, Sae tells him that there's nobody that could replace him and asks Rin who the hell he thinks Sae is, as he lightly kicks Rin, which scares the cat away. Rin, feeling a bit forced, says that he is Itoshi Sae, the best in the world. After that, the mood switches and Sae gets serious, saying that he's going to Spain tomorrow and that he's going to play football in the youth team of Real Madrid, the best football club in the world. Rin, who already knows this, asks why Sae is suddenly saying all of this, and that Sae is going to be the best striker in the world, so it's obvious after all. Sae tells Rin that he's just going ahead of him and that Rin better comes after him, telling him not to just give up because Sae is away. Rin agrees and says that for now, his goal will be to become the best in Japan and get scouted just like Sae. Sae says that it's the way to go and that Rin will take the world after that. After that, they high-five each other and say that the two of them will become the best in the world. Now quickly, I think this part is so good. I love how Sae tried to think about Rin's feelings and ensure he didn't give up hope just because he was going ahead, which is an extremely easy thing to do when you see someone advancing a lot quicker than you are. But that's just the strong and beautiful bond these two brothers have. After that, we get to the day of the flight, and Rin says that, to tell the truth, he felt a bit lonely, but that he would definitely catch up to Sae. His parents told him good luck and to take care of his health, and Rin wished him a safe trip. Sae, looking back with a big smile on his face, says that he's off to become the best in the world, and just like that, he left. After that, we see how Rin had it after Sae left. His coach was screaming at him that he couldn't just play by himself. However, Rin knew that he had to do that if he wanted to become someone who could fight on the world stage. He had teammates above him to whom he could easily pass, but they weren't in the right positions for him, and he thinks that playing football without Sae feels a lot more cramped than he expected, calling it restricting. There are 3 players on Rin, but somehow he's just better and is able to avoid them all. However, his coach screams at him and tells him to pass the ball again, and even his teammates are screaming at him. After that, Rin thinks that because Sae isn't here, he will become his replacement, thinking about what he lacks to get closer to Sae, and finally giving in and passing the ball to his teammates. They pass to each other before giving it back to Rin again and telling him to finish it. As Rin gets the ball, he says that he will control this restrictiveness, and then he will take this team and make it the best in Japan. As he says that, he fires off an amazing shot which goes right into the goal, and all of his teammates celebrate his incredible goal with him. After that, the night comes around and his teammates are saying goodbye to Rin, who decides to stay longer and train. He shoots a shot, but isn't pleased as he says that it didn't go where he wanted it to, and he suddenly realizes that it's snowing now. Suddenly he hears a voice behind him, who calls his shot a bit shoddy. He looks back and sees Sae, who's finally back, but this time with a depressed and sad look on his face. However, Rin welcomes him back and says that it's now been 4 years and that time sure moves fast. He tells Sae that he's been keeping up with him in the news and says that Sae is playing in the Real Madrid youth matches and managing to score, which is an incredible feat, but suddenly asks if he's lost some weight. Sae isn't sure but quickly moves on and says that it turns out the world is huge and that there are players way better than him out there. Rin is confused about where all of this is coming from, but Sae then squeezes his fist and says that he's changed his dream and that instead of becoming the best striker in the world, he will become the best midfielder in the world. Rin's eyes suddenly lose emotion as he can't understand what's just come out of his brother's mouth. He tells Sae that he is a striker and asks what's the point of becoming the best at something other than that. Sae tells him to shut up and that Rin is only saying this because he doesn't know the world. Rin only gets angrier and says that Sae can't just decide this on his own and that it was Sae himself who said that they were going to fight together, not to mention that it was Sae who told him to become the best after him. Sae tries to reason with him and says that he will be a midfielder while Rin reaches the top as a striker. This makes Rin extremely mad. He screams that he doesn't want that and that he is the brother of the world's best striker. The emotions in Sae's eyes start to slowly fade away, and Rin asks if Sae only came back here to spout those pathetic things, and that Rin doesn't want to see Sae like this, ending it by saying that Sae isn't the same brother he once shared a dream with. Sae's eyes look like they were just broken into 100 pieces, but then he suddenly changes approach and calls Rin lukewarm. He puts his foot on the ball and says that it seems like Rin hasn't realized that the football field is a battlefield. After that, with an intense and fearsome aura around him, he tells Rin to come, and that if he can beat Sae one-on-one, then he will once again share their dream together. But if Sae manages to win, then their dream ends right here and now. Before the showdown, we get a quick flashback to when Rin was in school and they had the Parents' Day essay, and the topic was about their dream for the future. It was finally Rin's turn, and Rin said that he wanted to be a football player like his brother, also saying that his brother was going to be the best striker in the world, while Rin became the second best, and then they would win the World Cup together. And then we are back in real time, where Rin isn't on board with Sae's conditions, and says that he can't just decide that on his own. Sae isn't having any of that, and says that all Rin has to do is win, and then Sae will start to believe again. Rin tells him to stop joking around like that, but Sae cuts him short and tells Rin to go, and that the first to score wins. Rin is far from ready, and wonders why Sae is doing all of this, and says that he doesn't want to have a match like this. Sae starts with some incredibly fast scissors, which shock Rin. After that, Sae goes into a double tap, and Rin is able to notice right away that the tempo between each touch is incredibly fast, and that it's way faster than when he was in Japan, saying that Sae's dribbles have clearly evolved and that he's now on another level. However, Rin is still sure that he can stop him. Rin is watching the ball closely and sees that Sae is stopping it with the outside of his foot. But before he can think anymore, Sae has already made a magic turn on Rin. Rin is in a bad spot and says that now that Sae has experienced the world, he's gotten a lot stronger. After that, Sae faces Rin and with burning eyes asks Rin what he's been doing in these 4 years as he nutmegs Rin. Rin isn't even able to react and is just amazed that this is the current Itoshi Sae's level and that he is so far ahead of Rin. Sae looks back at Rin with a disappointed facial expression and says that they are done. However, Rin tells him to please wait up. He says that after Sae went away, Rin did his best to become the best in Japan and then get scouted like Sae did. Rin tried to become someone who could replace him and fought for the team. After that, he finally became the best in Japan, just like he said he would. But now suddenly Sae is saying that they are done. Rin looks lost and says that if he can't chase their dream together with Sae, then he doesn't have any reason to play football at all. Sae looks genuinely sad for a moment before telling Rin that if that's the case, then he should just quit. Rin can't believe what he is hearing, but Sae continues and calls Rin lukewarm and asks if he wants him to console him or something. He starts to walk away, saying that this country really is too used to peace and that anyone remotely talented just ends up becoming trash. He repeats what Rin said before about him being the best in Japan and someone who could replace Sae. After that, he looks back at Rin with a menacing look and tells him that he makes Sae vomit and not to use him as his reason to play football ever again. And he could have just left it there, but he had to continue, saying that Rin maybe sees him as someone special. However, to Sae, Rin is just an eyesore of an annoying younger brother and tells Rin not to get full of himself just from being born as his brother, and that if he can't play football, then he's not worth anything at all. After that, both of them leave, and Rin is sitting in his room, just watching old videos of Sae. He still thinks that Sae really is amazing and that what Sae said might be true. He turns the TV off and thinks that he might have had enough of football, explaining that all he ever wanted was to be by Sae's side. But now he starts to realize that Sae only thought of him as a training partner. He needed to become the best in the world. And now that Rin has lost his value, he's become unnecessary to Sae. He starts to think deeper and wonders if it means that every time Sae is nice and friendly towards Rin, it is just a lie that he constructs because Rin is worth using. He wonders if this means that the brother he had seen was simply just a lie. He starts saying that he wished that he never played football and that he wished they never shared a dream together. But after that, he loses it and throws all the trophies onto the floor, breaking most of them before screaming "No" inside his head. Rin starts to really get angry here and says that this feeling and the time they spent together weren't anything that he could just wish away. He says that it wasn't just a lie and is now fully set on breaking Sae into pieces as he turned Rin's life upside down. Aiku. In the middle of the U20 match, we get introduced to Aiku's backstory as we delve into his younger years. Aiku says that, at first, even he wanted to become a striker. His coaches called him a genius, telling him that he had to make use of his blessed physique and that as long as he was there, the other attackers could also attack. Aiku heard them but could see through their lies, saying that all the adults were talking about was for Aiku to play for the team. Aiku then went to the main coach and told him that he planned on becoming the best striker in the world and that he needed to focus on scoring more, asking him to please just give Aiku the chance to play the football that he wanted to play. However, the coach gave him a cold no, telling Aiku that football is a team sport and that if Aiku didn't follow his rules, then he wouldn't let Aiku play in matches, which is so messed up to say to a child who wants to try out for his dream. Aiku understandably was disappointed and said that all the adults only gave water to buds that were acceptable and only the flowers under their control were allowed to bloom. On top of that, they even decided where they would be allowed to bloom, and by the time you notice, everyone has turned into the same flower. Aiku was no exception. His teammates didn't help either as they were always complimenting Aiku, which was a good thing, but it made Aiku play the role more as they said that as long as they had him, they were the strongest team there is. By the time he noticed that he was being controlled, he had forgotten how to bloom. After that, Aiku went to the coach and said that football hadn't been fun lately. The coach asked where all this was coming from and told Aiku that he was a regular forward on the team that got every middle school title there was, saying that while Aiku might not score much, his assists are nothing to sneeze at. The coach smiled brightly as he told Aiku that he had a bright future ahead of him and that going pro was just an arm's length away. There was silence in the air before Aiku said, "Going pro, huh? Then get rich, marry some girl from TV and be happy." However, Aiku knew that he would never be satisfied with that. The coach was shocked, but Aiku continued and asked the coach if he believed that Aiku could become the best striker in the world. The coach, while sweating, said that he could and that Aiku had the potential. However, it got dark and Aiku said that he seriously doubted it and that it had been that way for a while now. Aiku then explained that he didn't want to put all the blame on the adults and that he was also at fault for not keeping true to his beliefs, saying that his life as a striker was tainted by fighting for others. But then the light came and Aiku told the coach that he wanted to become the best defender in the world, which shocked the coach. But Aiku was determined not to back down this time and said that all of these boring strikers that the adults kept mass-producing, Aiku himself wanted to destroy them as a defender. Because of that, he got an offer from an Italian Serie A club and also became the new U20 captain. Aiku was now determined not to play football for others anymore, and he wanted to bloom for his own sake. But with that said, if someday a true striker appears and is struggling to bloom in this country, he swears that he will never allow that bud to be plucked, and that he will even extend a hand because he wants to become someone who can tell them to bloom, and he even says that Blue Lock might be that special bud. Yukimiya. Yukimiya was just casually out with his friends one day when suddenly someone came forward and asked him if he wanted to model. Yukimiya was a bit confused, and then the scout asked him if he was currently signed with an agency, telling Yukimiya that he had a pretty strong aura. However, Yukimiya explained that he was just out shopping with friends, and on top of that, he wasn't interested in that kind of thing. The scout wasn't going to give up and asked to just snap a single shot of him. However, Yukimiya said that it would cause trouble as there was a Japan soccer championship next month. The scout was amazed at how incredible Yukimiya was and called him a golden boy. In the end, he ended up taking a picture of Yukimiya and called him a future superstar. After that, he asked what his future path would be, and Yukimiya, without hesitation, said that he was going to be the world's best striker. As he said that, he had a big smile on his face and said that now that he thought about it, that moment could have been the peak of his happiness. However, suddenly, as he was out with his friends, his vision started to get blurry. They asked what was going on and if he was alright, but not even Yukimiya knew what was going on. So he went to the doctor, who explained that he had tunnel vision and the appearance of blind spots when he was fatigued, which is called optic neuropathy. He explained that the progression of this eye disease could not be stopped and that it was accompanied by headaches and nausea. But then he dropped the bomb on Yukimiya, saying that it could also lead to blindness. However, the doctor assured him that with the proper treatment, the progression could be slowed down, so Yukimiya generally shouldn't be concerned about going blind. He said that Yukimiya could still model and go about his daily life without any problems. However, that's not what Yukimiya was wondering about as he asked the doctor if he could still play soccer. The doctor was quiet for a bit before saying that he wouldn't have any problems with it as a sport as long as it was just a hobby, but continuing to play the same way as it progressed would be difficult. The doctor said that it was unfortunate, but he had to say that the path to becoming a pro would be difficult. Yukimiya couldn't understand why something like this had to happen to him, and he asked the doctor if there was anything he did wrong, saying that he just wanted to become the best soccer player in the world. His voice started to become unstable as he said that this wasn't right and that he didn't want this, telling him to please give back his dream and that there was nothing else he needed. The doctor felt so bad for Yukimiya and went to comfort him. He said that he understood and that they would give it their all, telling Yukimiya that he would support him so that he could become a pro, but also saying that it would continue progressing and that the time he could be expected to perform would be limited. With that in mind, he asked Yukimiya once again if he still wanted to pursue his dream. With tears running down his face, he said that he still wanted to. Yukimiya knew that his time was running out and that before he completely lost sight of his fading dream, he would become the best striker in the world. And just then, he got his letter from Blue Lock. Hiori. It starts with a big picture of baby Hiori and his two parents. His dad was a silver medalist at the All-Japanese Judo Championships, while his mother was ranked second in Japan in the high jump. With their parents having tasted the bitter feeling of always finishing second, they made it their mission to make their child a champion. That became his destiny right as he was born. From a very young age, his parents really pushed for him to become the best, with his mother taking care of his health and making sure that he ate right, and his father pushing him into more training and studying tactics. Everything they did was for Hiori to become number one in football, the most popular sport in the world. His parents even put him in an intense elite training program. The only thing they talked about was how he had gotten better and how he could become the best. However, in reality, Hiori wanted to spend more time with his friends. But with his parents' big smiles, he couldn't say no, so he made sure to always make them happy and continued to play football. Hiori thought that his parents loved him, but that all changed one night when he woke up to his parents screaming. His dad was yelling at his mom that his numbers weren't high enough and that it was her job to take care of his diet. His mom tried to defend herself and said that it might be his teaching methods that were the problem. This made Hiori's dad furious, and he said that at the rate Hiori was developing, he wouldn't become a pro. After that, Hiori's mom wondered why she even married him in the first place, calling him a total asshole. To end it, they said that they had entrusted Hiori to fulfill their dreams, and that if Hiori couldn't become the number one in the world, they wanted a divorce. This shocked Hiori, who suddenly lost his balance and fell down the stairs. His parents rushed to his aid right away. When they came to Hiori, he asked them if it was his fault that they were getting a divorce. But they just ignored that and asked Hiori if his foot was broken and called an ambulance just to be sure. However, they weren't doing this out of love. They were just doing it to make sure that their dreams didn't die. Hiori noticed that as he saw his parents weren't even looking at him, they didn't care about him. They only cared about his talent. But despite everything, Hiori kept on playing football. Even though his parents didn't love him, because as long as he kept on playing football, his family would stay together. One day, he would become the world's #1 striker. However, he still wondered what his true purpose in life was, because after all, Hiori decided to live his life according to a character description, and his life became easier living like that. After that, we fast forward to a training session where Karasu Tabito, who was playing along with Hiori, comes up to him and calls him remarkable. Hiori thanks him, and Karasu introduces himself. He says that he is 1 year older but still plays for Bambi Osaka Youth. Karasu tells Hiori that he is a genius, born with impressive physical ability and superb ball control, combined with a high football IQ. Not to mention his left leg, which Karasu calls erotic as hell. However, in the final third, his passion in front of the goal is just average, and Karasu says that it's as if his mind and body aren't in sync. Karasu asks Hiori if he truly loves football. Hiori tells him that he is right, calls Karasu amazing, and says that it's really obvious to some people. However, Karasu quickly says that in his state, he doesn't stand a chance against him. But Hiori hits Karasu with another question and asks him if he likes to have huge expectations forced on him. Karasu is confused, and Hiori tells him that all his life, his parents have just forced their expectations on him, and he says that's probably why he doesn't truly love football. However, when Hiori is done, Karasu just says, "Boring," and tells him that all that crap about people's expectations can be thought about later. He tells Hiori to start with himself and to believe in himself, and to find something that truly gets his blood pumping. Hiori stands still and wonders what he is supposed to believe in. Besides, he doesn't even want to play football, and if his parents weren't around, what would he really be doing with his life? Hiori just doesn't get it. When his parents come to him to show him the invitation to Blue Lock, he thinks that he would like them to stop and calls them disgusting, envisioning them fading away while he says not to heap expectations on him ever again. When the day comes for Hiori to go to Blue Lock, his parents are ecstatic and tell him that they are rooting for him. But for Hiori, Blue Lock is just a place to escape, as he says that he never wants to live in that house again. Lorenzo explained that he was born in a shithole, to say the least. Not only that, but on top of that, his parents abandoned him, and as a child he had to survive on the streets by swindling people out of their money. After living that shitty life for so long, he started to lose hope, which is understandable because after living extremely shitty for a long while, you start to give up on the light of the world. However, when Lorenzo was about to starve to death, his light came to him. It was none other than Snuffy who had found Lorenzo abandoned, but he saw something in Lorenzo and asked him if he wanted to play football with him. Lorenzo, who could barely speak at this point, just asked Snuffy to give him money. Snuffy, while still having a smile on his face, agreed and asked how much it was that Lorenzo was looking for before putting out his hand and telling him that they should do business. First, Lorenzo explained that he thought Snuffy was absolutely crazy and out of his mind, which is why he decided to give Snuffy a challenge to prove himself. He asked Snuffy to replace his rotten teeth with brand new gold ones, and to everyone's surprise, that was exactly what Snuffy decided to do as he right away dragged Lorenzo to the nearest dentist and had them give Lorenzo golden teeth. Just like that, Lorenzo had found his light in this life, both in Snuffy and also in his flashy, shining teeth. This is also why Lorenzo is so loyal to Snuffy, as he was the one who saved Lorenzo. Snuffy. It starts off with Snuffy taking his car to his best friend Mick Moon's home. As he's walking closer, he remembers Mick's words, saying that they would become the best players in the world. However, when he enters the house, he finds Mick dead on the floor. After that, we get a look into Snuffy's earlier life when he first got paired up with Mick, which neither of them was especially happy about. But soon they became good friends who got to share the feeling and the dream of playing on the field. They quickly felt like they were invincible and said that there was nothing in the world that they couldn't have and that they would definitely become the best players in the world as they won the championship final with the score 2-1. But suddenly it started to go downhill and Snuffy called on Mick for a meeting where he said that they had both gotten dropped from the starting lineup. This was to be expected as their performances this season had been nowhere close to the previous years. Mick added on by saying that they might have fooled around a bit too much and that it was time to switch the flip and go all in now. However, Snuffy said that it was impossible to do it here as their relationship with the club, and especially the manager, was beyond repair. He told Mick that they had to start from zero even if they had to play for some mid-tier team. But Mick found this ridiculous, called him an idiot, and said that they were kings who only played for big clubs. Snuffy didn't listen and said that it was time for him to wake up, telling him that they weren't world-class players anymore, but instead second-rate players. He explained that football is a constantly shifting, harsh, competitive world. It's a world where anyone can become a star overnight, while the opposite can happen as well. New players are always looking for ways in, which forces them to grow up and choose a more robust and smarter future. Mick was quiet for a bit before he asked what the hell Snuffy was talking about, saying that they still had their promise and dream, which was to win in all of the big 5 leagues, and that they had only won in one so far. Snuffy told him that it was still highly possible, but later on. But even so, Mick just said that he was boring, telling Snuffy that if he wasn't going to pursue the same dream as him, then he could get out, which Snuffy did. However, he told Mick not to come crying back to him later on. Mick just laughed and said that he wouldn't change the way he lived, saying that in any era, the people who ultimately change the world aren't the intelligent people who live their lives the right and safe way. Instead, it's some stupid brat who possesses a childish, nonsensical dream. After that, we get back to Snuffy, who is hugging Mick's cold and lifeless body while crying his eyes out, apologizing to Mick that he couldn't share the same dream together until the end, saying that they couldn't fulfill their dream together, but that he would continue to dream and make it a reality. Ness. With a flashback into Ness's past, Ness explains that both of his parents are scientists and that ever since he was born, his parents drilled into him that everything in the world can be explained through logic. Sometimes when he was younger, he had gotten a wound on his hand and went to his father, asking if he could heal it with a healing spell. Unfortunately for Ness, his father told him no, and that he needed to quickly clean the wound and disinfect it. However, it didn't stop there, as he told Ness that if they didn't clean the wound, there was a chance it would get infected and slow down the healing process. If that were to happen, it would become necrotic, and in the worst case scenario, Ness could die, which is a lot to tell a kid. However, he soon after went to his mom to ask if that was true. She denied it, but his brother and sister overheard and started calling him stupid. He later asked his siblings if it were possible to summon a monster and bring it to life. However, they had enough of his imagination and told him that it was impossible and to stop reading such garbage, explaining that there was no magic in their house. But Ness wasn't going to let that stop him. One winter day, he built a snowman, made a magic wand, and also a summoning circle around it. He told the snowman to give him all of his strengths and to come to life. But during the spell, his siblings came out, telling him to shut up and that they couldn't focus on their experiments due to his noisiness. Ness looked confused and only explained that he was practicing magic as he wanted a pet for himself. This made them extremely angry for no reason, and they destroyed Ness's wand and his snowman. You could even see that the snowman was shedding a tear as it got destroyed. Later, they told their parents about Ness's magic practice and asked if he was even related to them. His parents came out and explained that snow is composed of frozen water crystals, but they also contain dirt particles that were circulating in the air, and asked him to wash his hands on the way in. His father told Ness that they were scientists and that it was their duty to observe, research, and explain natural phenomena. However, that wasn't enough for their father, as he also told him straight up that people who foolishly believe in the impossible are not wanted in their house. His father's harsh words made Ness fall to his knees and start crying, while his siblings didn't comfort him, but instead went back inside, saying that Ness definitely got the short end of the gene pool. Ness was so furious at them, and said that they rejected magic because they couldn't explain it in a scientific manner, and that they were all unable to understand the sadness within his heart. Ness explained that he truly believed that magic does exist, and that ever since he read a book about it, he was so excited that he couldn't sleep the entire night. He said that none of them could explain what he felt in that moment, and since that day, he searched for magic every day. Unlike the rest of his family, Ness liked dealing with fiction rather than fact, and if his family liked to brush off fiction as magic, then he believed that the world was filled with magic and adventure. Ness felt a lot of indescribable and happy feelings, but also a ton of indescribable sadness in his younger years. But that was about to change. Somehow, when he was watching a football match, he felt something he was unable to explain. A player scored a goal, and it was like magic flowing all around the pitch and striking Ness. He looked at the players celebrating and said that football is true magic. A single goal or a single player can ignite the crowd, whip the entire stadium into a frenzy, and provide a sense of euphoria that transcends all logic. And just at that time, Ness was happier than ever as he found it. He finally realized that football players are magicians. After that day, he started training like a madman, as he knew that it was what he wanted to do. His siblings wondered if he was an idiot, and their father told them to forget about him and that he would come back crying to them in no time. but he was locked in, knowing that one day he would go pro and show them. He would get called up to Diamond and the national team. When we then see Ness playing a game, he is in a one-on-one with the goalkeeper and shoots an incredible goal while saying that one day he will become a player that will enter the world with his magic. After that, Ness goes to celebrate with his teammates when suddenly someone new comes forward. He tells Ness that if he's interested in turning pro, he should definitely try out for their club, which is what he did as he went to Bastard Munchen Academy tryouts. He was met by a lot of older and more experienced players. Ness said that they were huge and looked strong, but even then, he would show them. He knew that if he showed results in this intra-squad scrimmage, the chances of him scoring a pro contract with Bastard Munchen, the strongest club in Germany, would skyrocket and his dream of becoming a magician would come true. And that was put to the test as kickoff began and Ness started with the ball. He dribbled across two players flawlessly with such sharp execution. Someone else in the box told Ness that he was open. Ness thought that he was too slow but that it couldn't be helped and decided to pass, but out of nowhere, someone came and stole the ball away. Ness was confused as he had already gotten past this guy, but he was already back, and after that, the other team managed to score. Ness noted that these guys were totally different from the players he was used to facing. He wondered if this was the level of those who were seriously trying to turn pro. Even though he could just keep up with them with his technique and creativity, he fell short when it came to tactics, coordination play, and transition, saying once again that they were on a totally new level to Ness. Two players went and blocked his path, making him fall to the ground. This made Ness realize that his magic was powerless against the world. His teammates started screaming at him, asking him what he was doing, and that he was too slow. Someone else said that he needed to get rid of the ball quicker and even called him a slowpoke. Ness, falling to the ground, started to hear the words of his family again, saying that there's no such thing as magic and that everyone who foolishly believes in magic isn't wanted in their house. He started seeing dark silhouettes of them before him. He started to cry, saying that he hated his magic. But suddenly, when looking up, he saw someone else with extremely long hair. He called him a loser and asked if Ness believed in the impossible, turning around and looking into Ness's crying eyes. Ness was caught off guard by his question and was utterly confused. Kaiser told him that just now the thought of giving up flashed in Ness's mind. He told Ness that thinking like that was a curse and also called him a stupid scrub. Kaiser pointed to his chest and said that the moment people believe things are impossible, they are programmed to give up like some kind of useless survival mechanism. However, that's the thought process of the weak. While you protect your pathetic hide, you kill and seal off your potential. He looked disgusted and disappointed as he said that you sacrifice your talent in exchange for living a long and tedious life. Those who do that are the ones he hates the most. Ness, still trying to process this, had nothing to say back, so Kaiser just kept on talking. He admitted that their opponents were good, but they were only executing what was possible at a very high level, and that Kaiser didn't see a truly strong player among them. But he looked back at Ness and said that he was different. Kaiser told Ness that his dribbling and the timing of his passes were like he was imagining plays one step ahead. However, it failed because Ness didn't have a partner that understood his ideas. But with Kaiser, all of Ness's ideas would become possible. Kaiser, looking more majestic than ever, put out his hand and told Ness to get up and crush them. Ness was hesitant and confused, but still took Kaiser's hand, and he said that at that moment, he decided to gamble and put his trust in Kaiser. The game restarted with Kaiser by Ness's side. Ness, thinking to himself, said that if this is how he's going to go out, then he will use all his creativity, magic, and everything he's got to team up with Kaiser, which is exactly what he did as he dribbled behind an opponent. After that, the perfect timing came and he looked over to Kaiser, who was fully immersed in the game. Ness passed the ball and said that thanks to Kaiser, he had more options to work with. However, he saw that with Kaiser's position and the number of players around him, they would shut down his shot angle in no time and said that Kaiser had nowhere to shoot. But thinking like that didn't work for Kaiser as he shot an outstanding shot against the goal while saying that they were full of holes. And to everyone's surprise, the ball actually went into the net, making it 1-2, and it even left the scout and Ness mind blown. Ness was in shock, wondering what had just happened, and said that Kaiser's shooting motion was out of this world. Kaiser landed on the ground, looking cooler than ever, as he told Ness, or loser, to give him the next one as well, and Ness, with big eyes, just had to take him up on that offer. Their unstoppable teamwork led to another, and even another goal, with Kaiser scoring every goal and ending the match with a 3-2 win. After the match, the scout came forward and congratulated both Alexis Ness and Michael Kaiser on joining Bastard Munchin, and it was in that tryout that Kaiser and Ness showed them the impossible, and also met for the very first time. After that, we get into the Bastard Munchin clubhouse where they are eating their lunch. Ness asked if Kaiser wasn't going to drink his milk, and Kaiser explained that he hated milk, or in fact, any white-colored drinks overall, which I thought was quite funny. If that wasn't bad enough, we also saw them coming late for training. Kaiser tried to get out of the trouble and blame Ness. However, I think we can all see whose fault it really was. Like bro looks like he woke up 5 minutes ago. And if that wasn't wholesome enough, we also saw them laughing and looking happy while showering. After that, Ness was cutting Kaiser's hair, and Kaiser told Ness something personal. He explained that originally he was a mentally weak person, which really caught Ness off guard. Kaiser said that he constantly gave up when he faced things he believed to be impossible, which is why he reminded himself to never ever again fall into that weak mindset. This is the reason for the blue rose tattoo on his neck. A blue rose symbolizes the achievement of the impossible. Artificially created, its unique blue color was not initially seen in nature, meaning an impossibility turned into reality. When Kaiser first saw the blue rose, he saw it as an example of turning the impossible into reality, a symbol of defiance, and a sign of defying the natural order of things. And that was just what Kaiser was searching for, as he wanted to become someone who couldn't be defined by the impossible. Ness, looking with bright eyes, said that the story was incredible. In his head, he thought that seeing how Kaiser was willing to open up to him made Ness happy. After that, Kaiser announced that he would win the Champions League and the World Cup, then cast down the rest of the football world into despair. Ness laughed and said that it sounded just like him. He also asked Kaiser what he thought of his new haircut. Kaiser said that it was good and that he just wanted to cut it short because it was starting to get in the way. He then asked how the dye was coming into the hair. Ness released Kaiser's hair and said that it looked really good and that it was a beautiful shade of blue, while thinking that one day, Kaiser's dream also became his dream, as it's because of Kaiser that he still believes in magic. Kaiser. It starts off with someone who we can pretty much assume to be Kaiser's father. He has a beer in his hand while his other hand is wrapped around Kaiser's face, and we then see Kaiser, who can't do anything but cry as he looks at his abusive father. After that, we get a deeper explanation of what has happened, as the text says that Kaiser's childhood was something no child should want or ever have to endure. Kaiser's father was a small-time theater director, and his mother was his father's lead actress. Whether the romance between them just fizzled out, or was the unintended consequence of one lustful and passionate night, shortly after giving birth to Kaiser, the mother abandoned Kaiser and the father, and not long after, the mother became a star actress. On the other hand, cast into the shadow of the mother's success, the broken-hearted father entered an endless spiral of self-destruction. With an alcoholic gambling addict father beating the crap out of Kaiser every chance he got, that was the unfortunate reality of how Kaiser grew up. And it wasn't like Kaiser could just go somewhere else as he had no other place to turn to. After that, we see that the father had ordered Kaiser to work. However, Kaiser was just a kid at this time, so what kind of work could he have? Well, he was ordered to steal different things. Kaiser made his way to the neighborhood store and stole everything from food to everyday appliances. If he failed to bring anything, the father would yell at him and beat him up. Because of that, Kaiser quickly became an expert thief. However, when he came home with the things he had stolen that day, there was a problem. His father told him that he had forgotten the milk, which made him extremely angry, as his lazy self was too lazy to go and get it himself. So, he kicked Kaiser right in the face, telling Kaiser that if he forgot the milk one more time, he would seriously kill him. Even if Kaiser did his job, the daily beatings and abuse wouldn't stop. Far from it, actually. Michael was the name that the mother gave Kaiser shortly before she left, but that name was never uttered by the father, not even once, as it was evident that the father deeply resented and hated the mother. Yet the father had treasured a rose the mother had once given him, and Kaiser couldn't believe why his father had kept it, as it was something from someone who had ruined his father's life. After that, Kaiser's father starts to choke Kaiser. He says that he is a piece of garbage and that the woman he loves discarded him. However, while still choking Kaiser, he says that he is below that, and that he is the scum that he and Kaiser's mother had spawned, telling Kaiser that he is incompetent, worthless, and a piece of worthless trash. He says all of that while looking into Kaiser's eyes, which are filled with fear as he doesn't know how this is going to end. And Kaiser had to endure things like this multiple times every day. After that, we see him walking in the street, saying that one beautiful day he will leave this place. As Kaiser got older, his desire only grew stronger. Among the things he stole, the boy secretly sold off the more valuable items and kept the money for himself. For someone like him, it was his first moment of defiance. After that, we got to Kaiser's 12th birthday, and he decided to buy something for himself, which was probably when his life actually started. He thought about buying food, but threw that idea to the side as he wanted something that would last. And honestly, he didn't care what he bought. But after being abused and mistreated for so long, he wanted to find something that could give him a will to live for. That's when he came across it. He was looking at a brand new football through a window and knew that it was what he wanted. He bought it and went to a nearby park and sat on the ground. He said that when he threw the ball, it flew away, but when it hit the wall, it bounced back to Kaiser. Even when he got angry and punched it, or when he kicked it with all his strength, it never cried or got angry at him. And when things got rough with his father, his football was always silently by his side. When his father was done with him, he found somewhere to rest and put the football close to his chest, saying that both he and the ball were pieces of trash. Kaiser started to shed a tear as he dreamed of getting out of this hellish nightmare he was in. However, then one day some thieves robbed the neighborhood jewelry store, and among the captured thieves, one of them gave the police the name Michael Kaiser as an accomplice, as Kaiser and the thief knew each other. However, the saddest part is that Kaiser was completely innocent, and it was a completely unfounded accusation that framed Kaiser for it. His father hears this and takes a beer bottle and smashes it at Kaiser, which could have ended extremely badly. His father asks him how many times he's told him not to steal things that aren't his and to get lost and die. That just made my blood boil, that he just straight up lied about everything. Kaiser can't believe his ears and thinks that his father really isn't one to talk and calls him a deadbeat. After that, the police found a safe where Kaiser slept, which had tons of money in it. His father is only getting angrier and asks Kaiser to explain before trying to hit him again, but luckily the policeman stops him. His father screams at him that he wasn't allowed to hide money from him, but says that now that Kaiser is going to jail, the money is his. Kaiser sees this as he is getting handcuffed and is a bit irritated, but there's nothing he can do about it. He says that he could recoup that cash some other time and that he can just start over. As Kaiser is getting escorted out, another policeman comes to his father with Kaiser's football and says that it was lying near his bed. His father is confused, but gets angry as he tells Kaiser that he better not have stashed some money inside this football. He takes his broken beer bottle and is about to destroy the football, but at this point, Kaiser isn't having any more of his nonsense. He breaks free from the policeman and jumps high up in the air. His eyes have a sense of anger that can't be explained, and with that, Kaiser finally gives back to his father by kicking him right in the face, which makes him bleed and fall right to the ground. Kaiser says that at that moment, something snapped for him, or rather than snapping, it was as if something new was born to life. The policemen see this and try to get Kaiser to stop, but Kaiser can't think clearly anymore. He has tears in his eyes as he sees the ball bouncing on the floor and manages to actually make a volley right into the policeman's face, which I think looks so incredibly cool. Anyway, one of the policemen takes out a gun, still on a child by the way, but that doesn't matter to Kaiser as he also gives him a kick right to his face. The thing that got born inside Kaiser was nothing other than an identity that he hadn't had before. And just like that, Kaiser, while screaming his heart out, had just taken down 3 policemen while being handcuffed. However, he sadly got caught in the end, and as he was in his cell, and as the night came closer, someone came to visit him. He has a mysterious aura around him as he asks Kaiser if he loves football. Kaiser is confused by this question, but the man tells Kaiser that if he does, then he can get Kaiser out of there. The man is revealed to be Ray Dark, who is none other than a World Football Association agent, or scout, I guess, who's come to probably take Kaiser under his wing. After that, we see Kaiser getting his neck tattooed with his infamous blue rose. In the background, you can hear someone talking to him. He says that he heard Kaiser took down 7 police officers with just a soccer ball. Kaiser tries to defend himself and says that he just ended the fight they started. We then see that it's Ray Dark who he's talking to, and he compliments Kaiser and says that it's good, explaining that he's traveling the world to scout unpolished lumps of soccer talent like Kaiser himself. After that, we get to the Bastard Munchin training clubhouse, where Ray and Kaiser stand side by side, and Ray tells Kaiser that from now on, this is where he belongs, but that he has to pass the pro exam first. However, Kaiser thinks that it won't be a problem, as he is ready to do whatever it takes to escape from his house. Anyway, he gets into the clubhouse and is greeted very welcomingly by everyone there, who even says that they have heard lots about him. Kaiser takes a quick glance at them and says that these are people who, unlike himself, were wanted to be born. Anyway, they decide to eat together and even compliment Kaiser's blue rose tattoo. However, as he looks down at his food, something strange happens. He feels kindness. However, Kaiser hasn't felt that before and doesn't know how to receive goodwill, so he just throws his food onto one of the players' faces, who rightfully gets angry at him and asks him what he is doing. But Kaiser explains that it's way easier for him to live as the target of malice. With that, he starts to go wild at them while they try and de-escalate the fight. However, in the end, soccer is a sport played by 11 players, and guys who are hated don't get passes. We can clearly see as they are playing, but Kaiser isn't getting the ball. He knows that if he's going to succeed in this environment, he needs the ability to fight on his own. He needs his own overwhelming weapon, and because of that, he starts to train like crazy as he tries to find something that would clearly prove his existence to everyone. He needed to make an impact, which is really cool to hear, as we know that his weapon is called Kaiser Impact. He says that rather than a conspiracy of goodwill, he needs a dog who will submit to his malice. After that, we get to the Bastard Munchen tryouts, and we see Ness, who gets run over by two of the Bastard Munchen players. However, Kaiser doesn't care about that and just says that he seems like a good test subject. He looks at Ness, who's lying on the floor, and says that his dribbling, passing imagination and all of his abilities are above criticism. If that wasn't good enough, then he is also isolated, which made Kaiser really take his eyes on him. After that, we see Kaiser asking Ness if he believes in the impossible. However, he didn't want to help Ness to be nice, but instead knew that this was the perfect time to erode his heart. With that, Kaiser gradually started to understand his disposition. He scored more and more goals, and the other players started to fear him. But Kaiser only said that the feeling he got felt so good. By using victory to hurt people and warp them, he's basically using malice to prove his existence. It then says that the being known as Michael Kaiser took great pleasure in eroding others' hearts and living on inside them as a scar. With that, we also see Kaiser undergoing some kind of transformation, while the players he's beaten are seen crying on the ground. However, after that, things only got worse, as destroying people's dreams and rewriting their sense of values became a symbol of impossibility that taught them true despair. Because of that, Kaiser believed that it was the ultimate destination of the impulse that gave its first cry at that moment. By doing so, he felt that bit by bit, and every time he harvested a new despair, he became a little more human. It sounds so messed up, but also so incredibly cool. At the same time as he was doing all of that, he would picture his father, who he'd hated so much, understanding that he hurt Kaiser just so he could maintain the feeling that he was alive. This was why instead of saying thank you, he hit Kaiser every day, and instead of saying I love you to Kaiser, he called him a piece of trash. After that, Kaiser realizes that he's doing the same thing his shitty father did, except that he's trying to do it to the world's soccer players. And that's why he started dreaming about becoming the world's best. Kiyora Jin. The text says that Kiyora Jin is always destined to stand at the boundary line. The first boundary was when Kiyora was in his mother's womb. His mother suffered a serious illness and was told by the doctors that her survival rate after giving birth was 50%. However, despite knowing that Kiyora was able to draw the change of life and was born into this world strongly, after that, we fast forward a bit, and we get to know that Kiyora has two siblings. He got caught between a short-tempered older brother and a rowdy younger brother, and because of that, the Kiyora household was constantly embroiled in siblings' quarrels. But even then, as small as a child, Kiyora thought about which side, or rather which brother would be more advantageous for him, thinking that whichever side he allies himself with will win, and that his presence determines the victor, which was Kiyora's own way of fighting and way of life. And even in Blue Lock, this nature bears its fangs as Kiyora survives the boundaries of battle and finds his way to this point. Karasu and Otoya. Karasu, someone who is deeply moved by ordinary things and feels pain from ordinary things, understands his own mediocrity and wants to hide it. To protect himself, Karasu has developed a habit of analyzing those around him, spotting weaknesses to keep others from discovering his true nature. Karasu respects the exceptional, individuals with unique sensibilities, brilliant plays, intelligence, or ruthless ambition. Meanwhile, Otoya lives life with a relaxed approach, rolling with each situation. He never lingers on the unpleasant. Instead, he replaces it with something fun, finding worry pointless. For him, overthinking is a waste of energy on things beyond his control. He enjoys focusing on what makes him feel cool and popular, aiming to be the best in his own carefree style. When Karasu and Otoya first met during Blue Lock's entry exam, they immediately recognized something in each other. To Karasu, Otoya's calculated approach and cool confidence are impressive. To Otoya, Karasu's straightforward, what you see is what you get nature feels refreshing, sparing him from guessing games. Their synergy is strong, with Karasu's control in the midfield paired with Otoya's ability to slip through defenders and attack from the center. Together, they complement each other's styles perfectly, creating a dynamic partnership that enables them to thrive within Blue Lock. Karasu then asks Otoya to form a team with him, one without passionate promises or cold betrayals. Aiki Himizu. We then get into his flashback, where it says that Himizu has a unique gift. He can see through lies. When he was a child, his parents' love had faded, but they put on a happy act to keep up appearances. Growing up in this environment taught Himizu to scrutinize people's facial expressions, doubting what he saw, and learning to decode their true feelings. This skill has turned into his source of enjoyment, seeing through the lies people tell, whether they're kind lies, defensive lies, or self-assured ones. Human personalities, he learned, are built on these facades.